She played Chopin beneath flickering lights while Nazis drank wine in the front row. But below the stage, a different symphony unfolded, one of secrets, betrayal, and silent war. In Vichy France, a pianist wasn't just a performer, she was a weapon. And every note she played was a message someone might die for. They said she moved like a whisper between trees, striking when least expected, vanishing before a rifle could raise. Her name was Eva Novak, but to those who fought beside her, or hunted her, she was Lisica Usensi, the Shadow Fox. Born in 1926 in a small Croatian village near the Drina River, Eva was the youngest of 4 children. Her father, a schoolteacher with socialist leanings, was executed by the Ustase in 1941. Her mother died of illness shortly after, leaving the then 15-year-old Eva to survive alone as the Axis clamp tightened across the Balkans. When the German Wehrmacht and their puppet fascist regimes flooded Yugoslavia, resistance was fragmented. But by 1942, communist-led partisans under Josip Broz Tito had become the most organized guerrilla force in Europe. Eva, hardened by loss and sharpened by purpose, joined a partisan brigade operating in the dense forests near Sarajevo. She was assigned to reconnaissance, not because of her youth, but because she was ghost-like in movement, deadly accurate with a Mosin-Nagant rifle, and had the uncanny ability to read German troop patterns. The first mention of the Shadow Fox appeared in a German officer's journal recovered after a successful ambush in late 1942. "We are being stalked," the officer wrote. Asterisk, a phantom. She kills with precision and disappears into mist. Locals call her Lisica Usensi. Asterisk this operation, in which Eva planted explosives beneath a bridge used to ferry German ammunition, marked her first known solo mission. 3 German trucks were destroyed, and no partisans were caught or even seen. Eva soon began working with British SOE agents, acting as their eyes and ears behind enemy lines. She smuggled radio parts hidden in loaves of bread, translated Enigma intercepts for field commanders, and even guided a captured American bomber crew over 40 kilometers of enemy terrain to a partisan safehouse. The OSS had been tracking her movements, admiring her operational precision. In one decrypted message between London and the Cairo field office, a handler wrote, asterisk, Shadow Fox has outwitted 2 Gestapo dragnets. She is to be given priority in supply drops. Asterisk. Her most famous exploit came in the winter of 1943. An SS convoy carrying a senior Gestapo officer and sensitive codebooks was en route from Mostar to Zagreb. Eva orchestrated an ambush using only 7 partisans, homemade grenades, and a diversion involving a burning hay cart and a rigged phonograph playing Tito's speeches. The explosion incinerated the lead vehicle. In the confusion, Eva picked off the rear guards with terrifying speed. The operation netted the partisans critical intelligence, including names of local collaborators and a partial decryption key later used by the British to intercept Nazi plans for Operation Margarethi. But legends are not forged by victories alone. In April 1944, her unit was betrayed by a collaborator who revealed their mountain hideout near Foka. At dawn, German paratroopers surrounded the ravine, bombing the cliffs and burning the forest. Eva refused to flee. Along with 5 fighters, she held off the enemy long enough for 22 wounded partisans to escape through a mountain pass. She was wounded in the shoulder and captured. Eva was taken to a Gestapo outpost in Banja Luka where she was interrogated for 12 days. According to post-war testimonies from Yugoslav prisoners who survived the camp, Eva never gave up a name. On the 12th night, she escaped. No one knows how. Some say she strangled a guard with her own hair. Others believe a sympathetic nurse left her cell open. The next day, the outpost's radio tower exploded. By mid-1944, she had become a myth. Her image, braided hair, rifle across her back, appeared on partisan propaganda posters dropped by Allied planes. She was a rallying symbol, especially among women, thousands of whom joined the resistance because of stories whispered about the teenage girl who tricked death again and again. Eva was last seen during the German retreat from Belgrade in October 1944. Eyewitnesses claim she led a frontal assault on an abandoned train station turned munitions depot, using captured V-2 rocket fuel to blow a hole in the defensive line. Her body was never recovered, though Soviet forces claimed to have buried a woman matching her description near the Danube under a makeshift marker reading simply, Sester. Sister. After the war, Eva Novak was officially recognized by Tito's government with the Order of the People's Hero, though no photograph of her was ever confirmed. In 1963, an OSS file surfaced indicating that Shadow Fox had been offered extraction to Britain but declined, saying only, "I was born here. I will die here. But let them know we fought back." Her legacy lived on not in parades or statues but in small stories: a smuggled rifle hidden in a baker's wall, a love letter never delivered, a mother naming her daughter Eva in memory of the girl who, in the face of tanks, chose to stand rather than kneel. Today, in the forests of Bosnia, wild foxes still dart between trees. Locals say if you walk the old Partisan trails in silence, you might hear a faint whistle, the tune of an old Yugoslav anthem. Some swear they've seen her, rifle slung across her back, vanishing into the fog as if she were never there at all. In the cruel cold of the North Atlantic, war did not howl, it murmured. It pulsed through sonar blips, echoed in diesel engines throttled to silence, and sometimes ended in complete, untraceable disappearance. Such was the fate of U-759, a Type WWII German U-boat that vanished without distress call or wreckage in June 1943. Official Kriegsmarine records marked it presumed lost with all hands, somewhere off Newfoundland. But decades later, its final voyage would resurface through wreckage, secrets, and silence. Commanded by Captain Lieutenant Kurt Widman, U-759 had already earned a reputation for unorthodox maneuvers. Unlike other U-boat commanders who followed strict Wolfpack doctrine, Widman preferred solo patrols in less trafficked waters. He was disciplined but distant, known for reading Goethe aloud between shifts and refusing to wear his officer's cap when surfaced, citing bad luck. The boat departed Lorient on May 20, 1943. Its mission, to intercept Allied convoy HX-242, suspected of transporting armored vehicles and radar components to Britain. The convoy was protected by a new class of destroyer escort, the USS Callaway, equipped with experimental sonar arrays and Project Echo, a passive detection system developed secretly by the US Navy. On June 4, a Swedish merchant vessel, SS Karlsland, sent a faint distress call. She reported being shadowed by what her crew believed to be a submarine. The message was abrupt, distorted, and curiously lacked urgency. U.S. Navy records later revealed that the Callaway had already been tracking an unidentified acoustic signature nearby. Hours later, both the merchant ship and the U-boat disappeared. In 2011, a sonar expedition mapping seafloor terrain for oil exploration stumbled upon the rusting hulk of a submarine nearly 3,000 meters deep, 240 kilometers southeast of St. John's. It was remarkably intact, save for a precise rupture near the conning tower and a twisted hole along the starboard stern. The hull bore the unmistakable markings of U-759. When wreckage images were released, naval historians and submarine experts pored over them. The damage was unusual, not consistent with depth charges or torpedo hits. The rupture looked surgical, implosive yet localized, as though the metal had been pierced from within by shockwaves, not pressure. No known Allied weapon matched this pattern. A classified memo from 1943, declassified in 2018, revealed a joint experiment between the British Admiralty and US Navy, Project Orpheus. It involved the use of an advanced low-frequency sonar weapon designed to rupture hulls through harmonic resonance, an underwater death tone. The document stated the device was tested only once. The test was conducted aboard the Callaway. The test date was June 4, 1943. Further complicating the mystery, a surviving crewman from the Callaway, Petty Officer James L. Morrell, gave an oral interview before his death in 1982. His words were cryptic: "It wasn't a test. We fired it. We heard something break, like ice snapping in slow motion. Then nothing. We were told never to speak of it." Adding to the intrigue, SS Karlsland was later confirmed to have been a decoy ship, a neutral-flagged vessel under British intelligence control, part of Operation Harp, designed to lure U-boats into specific kill zones. It carried no cargo and had no survivors. Some speculate the Karlsland's crew had been evacuated in advance. Others believe they were sacrificed to confirm the new weapon's effectiveness. Among the debris near the wreck, a sealed steel canister was recovered. Inside were damp but legible pages of Captain Lieutenant Widman's personal log. His final entry, dated June 3rd, read, "We trail the Swede through calm waters. The night is dark. The sonar pulses hum louder than usual. I sense we are not the hunters this time. We are being observed, watched. I feel the ocean listening. This is no ordinary patrol." To this day, U-759 remains the only known submarine believed to have been destroyed by an acoustic weapon. The Allied forces never repeated the experiment. Historians suggest Project Orpheus was shelved due to its unpredictability. It could rupture friend and foe alike, and it required absolute acoustic stillness to function, making it unusable in most combat scenarios. The story of U-759 is now told in whispers across naval academies and in the margins of sonar warfare textbooks. Its wreck sits upright, strangely serene, as though preserved in some silent shrine of steel. Occasionally, deep-sea expeditions send drones to capture footage, their lights flickering across the barnacle-clad hull. The crew's skeletons remain aboard, a haunting gallery of frozen men. Some believe the incident was more than technological experimentation, that the Callaway acted without full authorization, testing a prototype on an unaware target. Others insist that Widman's log suggests something else entirely, something older than sonar, older than war. Conspiracy theories abound, that the resonance weapon awakened something from the deep, or that U-759 disturbed a natural harmonic frequency buried in the sea's fabric. What remains undeniable is that U-759 never radioed for help, never engaged in combat, and never surfaced again. In a war dominated by fire and fury, it was undone by silence. In the long winter of 1941, when the snow refused to melt and the sky remained a sheet of gray steel, the city of Leningrad was already dying. Cut off by the German army and the Finnish forces, starved of supplies, the people endured one of the longest sieges in history. For 872 days, hunger gnawed at the soul of the city. But within that frozen crucible, 5 children recorded the days with pencils and hope. Their diaries, discovered decades later hidden beneath the floorboards of a bombed-out schoolhouse, would become a voice for the voiceless. Their names were Anya, Pyotr, Lev, Masha, and Valentin. Ranging from 6 to 14, they lived in the same apartment block near the Kirov factory, where the sound of tanks being repaired became the lullaby of the neighborhood. Each came from different families. Anya's father was a literature professor, Pyotr's mother was a tram driver, Lev, an orphan, survived by scavenging. Masha, a violin student, played in the children's orchestra until the hall froze solid. Valentin was the son of a Red Army lieutenant who never returned from the front. The first entry in Anya's diary was dated September 9, 1941. Mama says we mustn't cry. We must be brave, like Leningrad. Today I saw a dead horse. Papa told me not to look, but I did. There were many people around it. I think they were hungry. The diaries were written on scraps of paper, ration cards, old calendars, and even wallpaper torn from the walls. The children wrote of sugar cubes becoming currency, of standing in bread lines for hours only to be told the bakery had nothing. They described the silence of the streets, broken only by the wailing of air raid sirens or the thud of distant artillery. Lev, the oldest at 14, wrote bluntly, as if afraid that elaboration would cost him energy. In one entry he noted, I traded my boots for a tin of fish. Feet are cold but belly is warm. Masha cried when her fingers bled on her violin strings. No more music. Not even birds. Yet amid the desolation, there was resistance, not only military, but emotional. The children wrote imaginary recipes of dishes they would eat after the war. Pyotr, who had never seen the sea, wrote about opening a cafe in Crimea and serving black bread and tea on the beach. Masha drew a picture of herself playing the violin on a stage lit by candles, surrounded by blooming cherry trees. These visions, fantastical and heartbreaking, were less delusion and more defiance. One entry from February 1942, in Valentine's shaky hand, reads, Asterisk, Mama told me I was brave when I gave my soup to Anya. I didn't feel brave. I felt empty. She kissed my cheek. It was warm. That was the last time. Asterisk. By spring 1942, 2 of the 5 children had died. Masha succumbed to pneumonia, Piotr to starvation. Their last diary entries were simple. Masha's read, Asterisk, snow again. I dreamed of Papa's arms. Asterisk Piotr's final note was only 2 words. Asterisk, so tired. Asterisk. Anya, Lev, and Valentine survived into the siege's 2nd year. They joined a children's brigade tasked with clearing snow from the tram tracks and removing debris from bombed buildings. The work was grueling, and the food minimal, 50 grams of bread a day, often mixed with sawdust. Still, they kept writing. In an entry from October 1942, Lev described a moment of quiet victory. Asterisk, we found a cat. Skinny, but alive. Named him Zhukov. Valentine laughed for the first time in months. I almost forgot the hunger. Asterisk. As the Soviet counteroffensive gained momentum, relief began to trickle in through the road of life across the frozen Lake Ladoga. The children's entries took on a cautious hope. Trucks arrived with flour, kerosene, even chocolate. Schools reopened, though they were held in subway tunnels and basements. Music returned in fragments, someone whistling a folk song, a boy with a harmonica. By the end of the siege in January 1944, only 2 of the original 5 remained. Anya had died in a hospital tent from a lung infection. Her final entry, found folded in a nurse's pocket, read, Asterisk, tell the world we didn't give up. Asterisk. Valentine and Lev were evacuated to the countryside. Lev later became a mechanical engineer. He worked on early Soviet satellites, though he never spoke publicly about his past. Valentine became a teacher, known for his soft voice and unshakable kindness. It was he who, in 1987, led a team of students to restore the ruins of the old schoolhouse where they once huddled in fear. Beneath warped wooden boards, they found the notebooks and papers, faded but intact. The discovery stunned historians. Here were first-hand accounts, not of generals or soldiers, but of children, unfiltered, untrained, raw. The diaries were preserved, digitized, and published in a volume titled Asterisk, When the Snow Didn't End. Asterisk, they were translated into 17 languages. UNESCO declared them part of the Memory of the World Register in 1993. Today, in St. Petersburg, the building where they lived still stands. A plaque at its entrance reads, Asterisk, to the children who wrote through hunger, who dreamed through silence. You gave words to the fallen. Asterisk. Every year, on the anniversary of the siege's end, school children read from the diaries aloud in Victory Square. They wear scarves like the ones Anya described, carry flowers for Masha and Piotr, and whisper thanks to Lev and Valentine. Through the voice of 5 children, Leningrad speaks not just of war, but of endurance. Of hunger, yes, but also of humanity. Of death, but also of defiant life, written in pencil, under fire, in the grip of winter. In the occupied heart of France, where silence was often safer than resistance, a woman played Chopin by candlelight in a crumbling theater while transmitting military secrets beneath the floorboards. Her name was Elise Fournier. To the German officers who visited the Théâtre de Montblanc in Vichy each Friday, she was merely the entertainment, a fading pianist with soft fingers and softer eyes. But to the British Special Operations Executive, SOE, she was Agent Iris, one of the most valuable assets in southern France. Elise had been a concert pianist before the war, with a career that spanned Paris, Vienna, and Budapest. Born to a French mother and Hungarian father, her music had once been praised in Le Figaro as filled with sorrow and rebellion. After the Nazi occupation of France, her family's Jewish heritage became a secret more dangerous than any sonata. Her brother Michel, a radio technician in Lyon, was arrested in 1941. She never saw him again. Fleeing Paris, Elise arrived in Vichy with forged documents and a small suitcase containing a broken radio, her sheet music, and a pistol she barely knew how to use. The theater director, an old friend of her father, gave her work. Her first performance under German eyes was in June 1942. She played Rachmaninoff's Prelude in C-sharp minor with a calm that belied the sweat on her palms. The next morning, an envelope was slipped under her door. It contained a single line. Asterisk, "The music is beautiful. Shall we dance?" Asterisk. It was a code from the SOE. Her recruitment was quick. The British needed someone close to the German command in Vichy, where officers gathered for leisure and occasionally let plans slip while drunk or distracted. Elise was the perfect cover, charming, unnoticed, and underestimated. Operation Iris began in August 1942. Her piano was modified to conceal a short-wave transmitter, hidden inside the bass frame. Michel's old set, rebuilt by SOE engineers, transmitted Morse code when certain pedals were depressed in sequence. Elise could play a nocturne while sending coordinates. A wrong chord meant danger. A repeat motif signaled urgency. Messages were brief and frequent. Fuel convoy to Toulouse Thursday. SS officer arriving from Berlin. Engineer speaks poor French. Watch him. Elise's flat above the theater became a quiet hub for other resistance. Postmen, bakers, even a nun who smuggled blueprints in her hymnal. They called themselves Les Silencieux. One night, in early 1943, Elise was summoned to play for Oberstleutnant Hans Kruger, a brutal but cultured officer who had taken an interest in French music. He requested Debussy, then asked questions: where she had studied, who her father was, whether she missed Paris. She answered with half-truths and smiles. As she played Clair de Lune, her foot tapped out a desperate message. Asterisk, Kruger suspects. May not return. Destroy radio. Asterisk. But Kruger did not arrest her. He returned the next week with a bottle of brandy and a strange softness in his voice. He asked her to play something Hungarian. She chose Liszt. He asked for a dance. She refused. "My hands are only for music," she said. That night, she encoded troop redeployments from an overheard conversation between officers and sent the information to London. It saved over 200 lives when Allied aircraft diverted a bombing run away from a civilian zone. In April 1943, Elise learned of a plan to deport 400 children from Vichy to Drancy, then to Auschwitz. It was a sealed operation, known only to a few within the SS. She broke protocol and sent a message 10 times longer than usual. It risked exposing her frequency, but the British picked it up. With the help of the French resistance, trucks were ambushed en route. Only 57 children were saved, but the Germans suspected a leak. A week later, Elise returned to her flat to find it ransacked. Her piano was in pieces. Sheet music was shredded across the floor. Her radio was gone. She fled through the theater cellar, where a hidden door led to a catacomb tunnel. She emerged near the Rhône River and was taken in by a farmer's family who had sheltered resistance before. The SOE deemed it too dangerous to extract her. She would stay in France, without contact. Months passed in silence. Elise abandoned her musical identity and worked under aliases, moving from village to village. She forged documents, taught children in underground schools, and sent reports through human couriers. But she never played again. The war ended before she was contacted again. By then, her hair had gone gray at the temples and her hands trembled, not from age, but from memory. She resurfaced in London in 1946, where she testified to the lives she helped save and the intelligence she passed. She was offered the King's Medal for service in the cause of freedom. She refused. "I played piano," she said. That was all. Elise died in 1973, in a quiet flat in Avignon. Her estate included only a few personal effects and a rebuilt version of her wartime piano, restored by hand but never played. Inside the instrument, in the same compartment where the radio once sat, a folded piece of paper was found. It read, Asterisk, I never fought. I listened, and I remembered. That was enough. Asterisk. Today, the Théâtre de Mont-Blanc has been rebuilt. A small plaque near the stage commemorates her work, but most who visit think it honors a musician, not a spy. Every Friday night, a young pianist plays the same Debussy piece Elise played for Kruger. The final notes linger just a bit too long, as if waiting for a response in Morse. The last great German offensive of the Second World War began on December 16, 1944, with a thunderous barrage that shattered the icy stillness of the Ardennes forest. The Battle of the Bulge was meant to split the Allied forces and seize Antwerp, but among the chaos of tanks, frostbite, and fog, rumors began to swirl of a unit that didn't exist on any map. They were called the Wolves, a ghost platoon that haunted the woods and turned the German advance into a waking nightmare. Officially, there was no record of the 32nd Phantom Reconnaissance Company. It was not part of the U.S. Army roster, nor did it answer to any established division. But ask any survivor of the 5th Panzer Army's left flank, and they would speak, half-whispered, of silent attacks under moonlight, stolen uniforms, and Allied radio signals in perfect German. The story began with Captain Jonah Wexler, a New Yorker fluent in both German and Yiddish, who had once worked in theater before the war. Recruited into the Office of Strategic Services, OSS, he specialized in deception, stagecraft applied to warfare. In late 1944, Wexler was assigned a unique mission: to slow the German advance by creating a phantom unit that would sow confusion, steal intel, and mislead commanders into overestimating Allied strength. He was given 17 men, deserters, linguists, radio operators, and former criminals. Their uniforms were mismatched. Some wore Wehrmacht coats, others bore no insignia. They carried enemy rifles, drove captured Kübelwagens, and spoke only in code. Their insignia, if you could find it, was a snarling wolf embroidered in gray. Their headquarters was a frozen cave near Malmedy. From there, the wolves set out on nightly missions. They tapped phone lines, redirected convoys into ambushes, and left false minefield signs along critical roads. One night, they hijacked a German supply truck carrying fuel drums meant for the advancing panzers. Instead of destroying it, they drove it to an isolated crossroad, rigged it with explosives, and left a trail of fresh boot prints leading away, luring an entire column into a fiery trap. They spoke over open radio channels, inventing entire divisions and fake field hospitals. Wexler's actors posed as medics, engineers, even retreating officers. One of them, Sergeant Ray McCloskey, impersonated a panicked Wehrmacht courier who burst into a German command post screaming about an American paratrooper battalion moving to flank them. The unit pulled back 5 miles, ceding a crucial hill without a shot. But the wolves weren't invincible. On Christmas Eve, they encountered an SS patrol near the village of Trois-Ponts. Disguised as German engineers laying demolition charges, they were stopped and questioned. Their cover held until one of the wolves, a Czech named Novak, failed to answer a question about Hitler's birthplace. Gunfire erupted. 2 wolves were killed. Novak was captured, tortured, and executed the next morning. Wexler blamed himself. He radioed OSS command and requested extraction. The reply was chilling. Asterisk, no extraction. You are ghosts. Haunt them. Asterisk. And so, they did. In early January 1945, as the Germans began their retreat, the wolves escalated their campaign. They snuck into abandoned outposts and left forged orders for units to regroup miles away. They spread false rumors of an impending Allied pincer movement that didn't exist. German soldiers, already demoralized and freezing, began deserting in larger numbers. Some swore they saw Allied scouts behind every tree. Whole companies surrendered to shadows. One tale, passed down in the 116th Panzer Division, told of a German captain who found a wolf's paw print in the snow beside a message scrawled in perfect Gothic script. Asterisk, you will not survive the night. Asterisk. The captain shot himself. By the end of January, the wolves had dissolved back into the forest. Most rejoined regular units anonymously. Wexler disappeared. His name would resurface in a theater program in Paris in 1947, directing a play about ghosts in war. McCloskey returned to Boston and became a bartender. He never spoke of the war, except once, when a customer mentioned the Ardennes. McCloskey simply said, "The trees remember." After the war, military historians dismissed the wolves as rumor, attributing German confusion to bad weather, overstretched lines, and Allied superiority. The Army denied any OSS involvement. Yet in 1992, declassified documents revealed a partial file, Operation Howl. Pages were missing. The location of the cave near Malmedy was redacted. But there was a single memo from a senior OSS officer, handwritten and unsigned, that read, "In war, sometimes the most dangerous weapon is fear. Wexler made fear walk." Today, among veterans and battlefield guides, the legend persists. Visitors to the Ardennes speak of strange footprints appearing in fresh snow, howls that echo even without wind, and the sense of being watched. A single rusted sign near an unmarked trail reads, in faded paint, "Beware the wolves." The 32nd Phantom Reconnaissance Company never received medals, citations, or formal recognition. But their war was never about glory. They were the shadow behind the lines, the whisper in the fog, the cold breath on the back of the enemy's neck. They were ghosts. And ghosts, it turns out, win wars too. She never fired a bullet, but her music killed. Her piano was a transmitter. Her concerts, a battlefield. The Germans never knew their downfall echoed from ivory keys. And when she vanished into the silence, the war remembered her. Some spies wear disguises. She wore a dress and played Debussy.